The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon to everyone connected today. It's a new session of Investor Horizon webinars. We're here today with Maria Carolina Romero, partner at efino. We're here to discuss the different sources of financing according to the different stages of your business. I'm Perrine, I'm project manager at EBN, the European Business and Innovation Centers Network. EBN is a partner of Investor Horizon, a project co-funded by the European Commission and Eureka. We are a partner, we are a consortium of 6 partners working together to deliver an accelerator program with the capacity to host up to 500 deep tech SMEs until the end of 2021. If you're interested in this program, please note that the platform for application to the program is always open. We have cut off every 3 to 6 months. The next one will be at the end of May. At the moment in the program, we have 450 companies accelerated across 33 countries. This is our last cutoff at the end of May. We have 50 seats available in the program. If you are interested to get more information about the program, I encourage you to check our website. For you to know, you need to be a deep tech companies looking for your Series A investment. You need to come to have seed funding already secured and be based in a country, in a Eureka country or in a EU Horizon 2020 country. This is a program, if you're selected, you will join the program for about 3 to 4 months or 6 months, and you will access all the services for free. We have bi-monthly, we have information session, so you can get all the information about the application process, but also about the program itself. We have one tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and we will have another one on the 18th of March. Just for you to know about Investor Horizon, we do also have a long list of open services that are open to all entrepreneurs. We run these webinars every month. The next one will be at the end of this month, on the 25th of March. We will discuss with Willem Bultus the go-to-market strategies, and you can already register on the website. We also have a lot of resources available, free online classes. Maria Carolina also delivered a class on debt financing, so I encourage you to check out all these great resources. And I will go now straight to the point of today, and to Maria Carolina, who is also an expert coach in the Investor Horizon Accelerator. She's a partner at efino. She's been a business angel since 2012, and she has a very strong experience and expertise in business development and fundraising. She has a portfolio of more than 10 investments in high-tech startups across Europe and also the Middle East and North Africa. Maria Carolina is a very experienced international coach and questions in the questions window. And we will try to go through most of the questions until 5 o'clock. I would like to ask you to be as concise and short as possible in your questions, so we can make it as interactive as possible. So that's it for me. Maria Carolina, I'm going to give you the floor now. We're going to put you as a presenter.
Let me see now. Hello, everyone. Just 2 seconds so that
It's good.
can share my screen. Yeah. Let me 2 seconds because I cannot see how to
No rush,
find the
no rush.
presentation.
Do you see the small screen window? Yes.
Yes, but I would
see
like
the
to
screen.
access, and you can see the presentation on my screen.
Yes.
Okay. How can I see it, Perrine? Because that's kind of what I'm not seeing now. Let me see. I think here. Nope. Yes, here. Okay. So thank you very much, Perrine. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So thank you very much for the introduction. And as Perrine was saying, I have been delighted and honored to participate as a coach in Invest Horizon. That is precisely what she was presenting at the very beginning. And I sincerely encourage you to go for this type of opportunity. We have found very interesting startups. And I think the way the program is framed, specifically, let's say in the part of the coaching and the peer, like these investor exchange sessions are quite beneficial because you get exactly to, as an entrepreneur, to present your company, to identify the challenge, and then you have all of your peers and everyone helping you to tackle those challenges, and afterwards to present your investor wish list. As Perrine mentioned, I was before an entrepreneur, and I have done so many fundraisings that I would have loved to have this type of forum to actually get the opportunity to get these introductions or contact to these qualified leads. So having said that, yes, if you want to apply, I think this is a great opportunity to do so. So story short, and I will try to stick to the time, Perrine, no beyond the 25 minutes. So today I'm going to share with you something that I found very difficult and challenging when I was an entrepreneur, and now as an investor, as a business angel, I see many of my startups actually facing this type of problems. And it's exactly to understand, whenever you are going for fundraising, drivers that actually select this type of fund of financing. What are the drivers behind, as me as an entrepreneur, to walk this journey? What are my available options? Because normally we always think it's only two of them, equity and debt, but there are many. And at the very end, if you understand the sources of funding that are available, and again, here I'm going to be very high level due to the time, and in other webinars we can go in deep, but in a very high level, which are your opportunities, and how at the very end you will need to juggle with these multiple types of financing. So having said that, this is exactly what I was mentioning, are different drivers to select.
Maria Carolina, we cannot see your presentation. You have to
financing, depending. So number one is to understand the stage of development of your own company. And even though if you have advanced, and I will try to make it as concise as possible, it is true that it is not black and white. You will see that in different dimensions, you will have sometimes the stage of development of the company can be more, let's say, in a minimum viable product, and sometimes it could be even more into crossing the chasm. We will discuss that. The second, it's about the money and the timing. As I normally say, it's very important to understand what is going to be your ask and in how much time. And just here a tip of advice here. I have raised between, for me, the time investment for raising $500,000 to raise 3 million, 5 million is the same. Because at the very end, when you launch your fundraising campaign, it will take you an average of 6 months in order to get your funding done. So whenever you feel that your runway, it's about literally like 9 months, it's the right time to start thinking and launching your fundraising campaign, and understand what is the ask. But that ask has to be in coordination with the stage of development. Afterwards, we will see about the type of the use of funds that we can use with each type of these investors. And at the very end, like now, literally more important that, again, having the stage of development, understanding what's going to be your ask and in which time to raise, and the type of the use of funds that will be available for this is if you as an entrepreneur need to be emotionally open to go for this journey. And this is exactly what we are seeing here. Sorry, I think, Perrine, you need to share yours because I don't have mine here. Perrine?
Yes, we see your presentation. You can navigate it, I think.
Wait, no, because it's...
Or otherwise we will take over the presentation.
Yeah, I think it's better if you take over because I think this computer is getting a lot of notch here.
No worries.
Apologize for this. Well, in the meantime, while Perrine is doing that, so let me tell you a little bit about actually, so whenever you go for fundraising, there are two main things that actually, like two broad categories as an entrepreneur that you are thinking about doing so. So on one side is your equity, on the other side would be your debt. So just a clarification between the two of us, because actually you can access to the two of them. Number one, the debt involves exactly borrowing the money directly from an investor. And there's an inherent aspect of the debt contract that is in fact in the best case scenario that the investor upside is limited. So we don't have a lot of risk, therefore our upside is limited. So let's say our relationship is not, there's no correlation with the success of the entrepreneur. So when we are looking for debt investors, they only receive the return that is equal to their principal plus some interest on top. So that's mainly what you need to understand. Well, if you go, for example, for equity, pure equity is when exactly you with the investor are sharing together the risks. So for me, when I'm an investor, I will share with the entrepreneur the upside. We will look together for different risks and the entire situation. Let's say it's better. So at the very end, it's a lot of risk, but that's why investors, we are willing to put the money in so that it can actually, like we can get the upside among all of that. Having said that, something that is very, very important as an entrepreneur is this personal preparation for you, that you are actually ready to move forward into this fundraising. So important, and as a tip of advice with your co-founders is to understand if all of you are sharing the same drivers. All of you need to have the business direction and to be aligned in terms of the speed and the type of the growth and exit considerations. There should be also a personal liability, understanding that there's a risk that you cannot fundraise and that you need to live with that. But what's going to be my B plan? The decision-making tree, when to stop, when to go, and the reporting, because whenever you literally invite people to come into your company like a shareholder, you are looking forward for reporting and so on. And then the support, the contacts and the experience that you can have. So I don't know, Perrine, if you were able to share.
I'm so sorry to everybody. I'm struggling. We have a technical problem. I'm trying to find the presentation.
I'm in the same situation.
Just take a second.
If you want, I can slow down. Okay.
Just a second. Okay.
So Perrine, I found it, and let's hope it can work out. So let me see if I can share my screen this time and it can work, okay?
Yes, I'm sorry to everybody. I have a technical problem here. Can you try share?
if your company actually have developed a business model that can be a lifestyle business, which means it can give decent salaries to the management team, but it's not like a company that will give amazing returns for investors, okay? And then it's when actually, and another, I know that you have a webinar on exits, you will see that exiting is not only the three ways that we normally, that are very popular, that is the trade sale, founders buying back their shares, or the IPO that everyone dreams for, but there are like around 8 between external and internal exits, and this is exactly when it happens. And the last one is about the expansion. So, and here we are talking literally like only it's the exit, are the in every way and form. So a self-sustaining business, managing teams, and literally looking towards the exit. Again, this we simplified it at 4 stages, like four fundraisings. However, life is a little bit more complicated and difficult. So having said that, identifying the stage of your company will also help you to identify this ecosystem of different funding that you have and in different stages. So for example, we have here what we call the minimum viable product. So we can say, for example, the stage 1 was this one, that it could be between pre-seed and early stage startup. And then round 2, crossing the chasm, would be more on the early stage startup, and then stage 3 is the expansion. And what we were saying, it's about the growth and the expansion will be these different ones. So that's why I wanted to tell you and to show you that it depends on the different stages, actually, the type of investor that you can have in, or maybe the source of funding that you can have in. And as you can see, can be many. So part of your challenge would be to manage this type of investors. So a little bit, I will touch base in few of them that are the most popular ones, just to give you a little bit of a notion of what I think the typical capital, what I'm seeing the money is going for the use of funds, the right timing, the benefits, but most important that you have in mind the risk that each type of funding gets into. So the typical, and what everyone starts, is the founder, family, and friends. And here is typical money that you use for researching the prototype, the process for your business model. The timing is exactly what we were saying, this minimum viable product to get it up and running. And it's the seed and the startup, these two at the very beginning. The benefits is that it's speed, because the people that are investing in you, they trust you. Again, here it is a business of trust, and it's a business of investing in people. Therefore, then you have the speed, you have the credibility, they know you. And the investors drive based not only on the financial returns, but there's a bonding, there's a feeling there. The risk, and what I have seen, many of the ones that literally, which is normal, 80% according to statistics of startups, most likely fail, is that when you fail, the risk is that these personal relationships are also at risk, because sometimes it's difficult to differentiate between one and another. The second one is the business angels that normally we love. I'm a business angel. I love to be after this founder and family. However, I can also come from this minimum viable product stage, as we mentioned before. The typical capital that we like when we are giving the money and use of funds is either the product, the service, operational development, for strategic alliances, for marketing. The timing, and you can see before, actually now with COVID and everything, we are seeing that it's even longer. So we also get up to the 3rd stage of the company. But let's say we love to start in the minimum viable product, the stage 1. And then what we do is we continue with the entrepreneur as much as we can in the follow-on rounds. So that's why it's also very important for you to have in mind that it's around 6 to 8 financing rounds what you are going into. And therefore, these investors, you have to nurture them, because they will walk the journey with you. So the benefits is, it's normally we say we have 2 wings. One wing is the money. The other wing is about our contacts and the expertise. And we always, we normally, what we say in the very early stages, let us know where can be of any help. And we open our network, so it's great whenever you go for a follow-on round, because you are not only tapping your network, but the business angel networks. The risk is the time. Depending on the network, it can take from 3 months to 6 months. Even I have seen some networks, depending on the country, taking a year, which is too much for an entrepreneur when you are fundraising. The other sources, we are expecting high capital returns. The bonding is not there. So that's something that to take into account. And our exit depends on our individual investment strategy, but most likely we want medium term. And when we say we are thinking about medium term, is literally a time horizon between 3 to 6 years. So that's something that we need to take into account. And then we are seeing the venture capitals that, to be quite honest, they are starting a little bit earlier. Even when crossing the chasm, at the very last part of that crossing the chasm, we are seeing VCs coming in and other early funds. So a typical capital, it will move a company into a significant position within the industry because they have a very strong network. And then if you want that in the use of funds, they're willing to do so. To achieve profitability, that will be something absolutely to look the funding for, and to prepare the company for an exit. The timing, again, it's about Series A and B. If you haven't completed yours before, and when I'm saying Series A, is literally not at the very beginning of crossing the chasm, but it's literally mid, in between, or at the end, and for expansion. The benefits is that you are sharing the risk here, as we mentioned before, and that you are tapping into let's say, a very sophisticated network, a sophisticated investor. The risk is that the priority of the venture capital, they have a mandate. We will see afterwards the difference between business angel and venture capital so that you have a better idea. There's a pressure that they have for, or delay on time for the exit. And then most cases we see, specifically when the company is going now for growth and expansion, that sometimes the founders are part of the negotiation, is that they need to step down because they need, let's say, another type of investors to actually come in. So the other ones that we are seeing here, and just a brief about business angels and venture capital, the main differences between one and another is that business angels, we invest our own money. Venture capital is money that has been raised, and there's is not their own money, is the money of limited partners that have put their money into. Most of the VCs are in tech deals, while business angels, we can have a diversified portfolio. And in terms of, let's say, expectations of financial returns, they are more exigent with, like, more strict with them, because the entire idea is actually that those funds need to provide more funds, more profitability in the future. So that's exactly what I was saying here. And business angels sometimes are private individuals, while the venture capitals are professionals. Grants is something also that you can tap into, and that we are seeing a lot of times from a co-investor point of view. So the grants is exactly obtaining the cash for a specific use or based on a milestone achieved, but cash does not need to be reimbursed. That's why we co-investors, we love, specifically in the very beginning, the minimum viable product, if you guys win the grants, because there will be money that will be invested in the deal and we will not be diluted. The grants are great because normally it's in the very early stage. The benefits, as I mentioned before, there's no equity, there's high visibility and free press, and many of the cases it comes with free coaching, but a real good one. And the risk is that sometimes it can be paperworking, time consuming. The entrepreneur commits to tasks that sometimes deviate them from the business perspective itself, and that sometimes is quite bureaucratic. Karina, I know I have 5 minutes, and I promise that I will finish in the next 5 minutes.
No, but it's okay, Maria Carolina. You can take a bit more time since we had the problem at the beginning.
No, but I think I would be able. Okay, and then the other part is the working capital for financing that you will have, that those are other type of individuals. So here, something that for me at the very beginning, I never thought about it when I was an entrepreneur, to actually access to this type of funding, where these individuals that come here transversal, that are my suppliers and or customers. That's something that definitely you can tap into, and as you can see, at any stage of the company. So normally the typical capital that I got whenever I discovered that actually I could tap into those individuals was purchase of product and service, or they actually could give me a credit. The timing, as you can see, is in the entire journey of my company. The benefit is that it's true, sometimes it could be less expensive financing. People normally say it's cheap financing. I don't think cheap is anything. It's literally maybe less expensive, but there are some risks aside that you will see. Investors with any strategic insight, the force of entrepreneurs to be business oriented. However, also I face that situation. It can bring a lot of conflict of interest. If you have your supplier or customer, part of your shareholder, specifically your supplier, sometimes it's difficult. You lose your freedom, or you are exposed for a conflict of interest if at the very end you find that other supplier can actually do better and the supplier is invested but not heavily in your startup. It would be difficult to understand how to manage that situation. So as you can see here, in suppliers and customers and founders, family and friends, where the people are close to you, the main risk are these interpersonal relationships, which is very, very important to tackle it. Sorry, and then we have here something that it has become extremely successful, specifically after 2010, we saw them emerging completely. That was the crowdfunding. And here in crowdfunding, you can have different types. That was something interesting for you also to navigate. You can have either, depending on the nature of your business, it can be equity crowdfunding that I put it here because we are discussing about equity, but there also could be pre-buying your service or your product. It can be loans. So what we are seeing, again, very high level in equity crowdfunding platforms, is that typical capital goes for product development, working capital, and set processes for business model. The timing, actually, we are seeing after with this pandemic also going more into stage 1, 2, and 3. So here they move more into the startup also phase. The benefit is that if you have the peer effect, and I don't know if you understand how the business model works, and normally an entrepreneur comes into these platforms and brings all of the investors and friends and so on. So you can have that peer effect that anyone who wants to go there and see the most popular, and then you get the funding like that. So that's what we call collective intelligence. Several of the companies in my portfolio have tried this more as a powerful marketing tool. For example, for the pre-ordering and so on, they have gone for that. It's proven, it's a great marketing and sales acquisition channel. And then it's an access to a mass of investors. However, the risks are, and I have seen it constantly, every time that we know that we are going and the equity crowdfunding platforms would be included, let's say, in the round, we have significance in different, specifically in valuation, because the investor that is behind normally is not that educated, and it's about passion and so on. So then you start to see the companies overvaluated. So most likely in many of the companies in follow-on rounds, we have gone for down rounds. And so then the lack of regulation in many countries, that it started 2009. Some countries are strong in regulations, are others that there's no even regulation there. And for you as an entrepreneur, when you open your company for external shareholders, then you don't have any idea who's behind. And that is something that is scary at the same time, specifically from an exit, where these, especially when it's trade sales and so on, they are so strict on due diligence. So keep an eye on that one. And then, as we can see, commercial banks, and here I'm seeing a development depending on the region. At the very beginning, commercial banks were very strong and very strict about the collateral that you needed to have. However, what we are seeing is more banks are opening these mezzanine services for entrepreneurs, and then they are getting a combination between, it's a combination between equity and debt, and that's something that you can access, again, depending on the stage of development. They are not into the minimum viable product, but yes, into crossing the chasm. So these guys have moved a little bit more into this space too, and with different and interesting solutions for you as an entrepreneur. So typical capital is for business and operational development efforts, for further product development. The timing, again, as I mentioned, it could be Series A and B. However, we are seeing even before the Series A, depending on the country. The benefits is no equity, as we mentioned before, the debt, and it pushes you to make sales, because then actually you have a commitment and there's an interest rate that you need to. So it will impact your cash flow. However, you will not be diluted, so which is great. And then the risk is some of them even ask for credit ratings. and then a collateral, because some of them, depending again in the region where you are, banks are reluctant to lend to small and risky firms that lack of collateral, which is important to have in mind. So at the very last part, what I wanted to share with you is that at the very end, you can have, it's not that you need to go for only one source of funding. Part of your strategy, by having this high level of awareness of all of the different options, and again, I did it very high level, but as Perrine was saying, if you go for the debt finance video, you can see that debt, like literally in this sector, innovation, like the sky is the limit. Therefore, you can have possible combinations. The most important is that you understand, going back to your drivers, what is best. If you are prepared emotionally to actually give ownership, if not, so definitely no. What I can tell you is debt, pure like debt, it is more for later stage companies. It will not be, I haven't seen for extremely early stage minimum viable products, no, but then definitely they are getting, they were very far more in the expansion and growth, and they are getting, let's say, closer to what we call the stage 2. And then the possible combination is that you can have advisors that maybe they can become investors, and then they can be your business angels. Then in the very first stages, and then you can have the crowdfunding and the business angels. The business angels will walk the path with you. And then when you are in your Series A and Series B is when actually you need to combine all of this together, and you will have most likely family offices, venture capitals, and so on. So everything is possible. It is more, and I encourage you to actually do this financing, what we call this entrepreneur financing strategy, so that you can understand the overall picture of the immense possibilities that you have. So thank you very much. I apologize again for the little glitch at the very beginning with the presentation, but I hope it was useful for you and open for questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Maria Carolina. And again, sorry to everybody. This is unfortunately something that happens sometimes. I would like to encourage you to ask the questions now in the questions window. I see we already have questions. We have again more than 90 attendees. It's really nice to see that you always are so many people coming back to our events. As Maria Carolina was saying, she did a very interesting class on Investor Horizon on debt, so I encourage you to see it. And one of the questions would be, Maria Carolina, what would be the main factors founders have to consider? Can you say it again, like very clearly, when deciding between equity and debt financing?
Yeah, so literally for me, when I'm a founder, the most important is, first of all, to be aligned with my co-founders of what we want. The second is to have the clear understanding if we are willing to give ownership or not, and to understand all of us, let's say, the stage of the company and the different options that we have as for financing. As I mentioned before, it can be a possible combination among many of those.
Yes, and you were explaining very well the whole landscape of opportunities, and I can imagine that's a bit overwhelming when starting a business to know exactly where to go and with whom to go. I guess it's then maybe good to be advised to find some kind of counseling to be directed to the right investors. And also understanding exactly the mindsets and the sectors of investment of the different funds out there. And would you recommend some tools or some platforms for the entrepreneurs to be according to the sectors?
Yeah. Yes, so I think everyone should have, let's say, their own strategy, and then there are many frameworks that you can use, and afterwards I can send you some of the links so that people can look at that one. So it's literally, I think the first step of the entire type of financing is to develop your own like an entrepreneur financing strategy. So that's number one. The second, it would be, again, literally, and it's a very difficult exercise whenever you are going for financing round, is to understand how much is your ask How much money are you going to ask for, and for what? What would be those use of funds? And the third step, when you do that ask and you understand in terms of money what are the ranges that you are looking for, it is the valuation of the company. And sometimes I always say to entrepreneurs, despite in the stage that they are, it's all the time to ask yourself as an entrepreneur, how much to, like what we call the rule of thumb, how much I would like to be diluted, how much I can afford and I can live with giving part of my business. And then afterwards, how can I make all of the methodologies click into the entire situation? And then for evaluation, you have the world in terms of methodologies. Then the next step that I will say, it is more, okay, now you understand how much money you want. If you want to be diluted or not. If you say, I don't want to be diluted, I cannot afford having shareholders, because there are many entrepreneurs that actually have grown their business without opening the company for shareholders. So what are my options there? As you could see, it can be a combination of grants or even crowdfunding platforms that they are where your product or your service is pre-buy, like that. Actually, it's like what we call this avant-premiere, that you can make it happen. So that understanding, and then you research according to that, like let's say in part of that framework. And then when you got, let's say, all of these things, the ask, the evaluation, how much you want to be diluted or not, if you go for debt and everything, is that reality check with yourself. It's about where my company is, so that I can attract the real capital. And that's why I started with these different stages: minimum viable product, stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are vital. So that, because I see many of the entrepreneurs, no, I'm going for a Series A round. And I said, okay, can you let us know what are the other financing rounds that you have gone into? And they said, well, only the founders round. How have you financed the entire thing from one to another? Well, nothing, and I just have a prototype or a platform, but I'm going for a Series A. There's a mismatch of what you think as an entrepreneur and actually what a market that is outside there, a sophisticated market, is willing to give to you.
Okay, when a VC invests in a startup, does he give the whole amount at once, or does he have some kind of milestones according to the business plan?
Yeah, it normally depends exactly on the deal terms, but you can have both. Either when they start for a ticket of 500, 1 million, 2 million, we see that, again, if they are clear, the unit economics are clear and the business model is there, yes. But many others, it is true. And that's a very important point, Perrine. They will give it. If there's any doubt or so on, they will say, okay, it can be 2 million, but it could be in different installments. And these installments are based on different, or achieving or hitting some KPIs or achieving some milestones. And that's a very important question, because when I remember I had the first exit, I thought it was like, okay, now we're getting the money and it's over. And no, surprise, like there's no, like at the very beginning, they were saying, okay, we're giving you between 20% to 50% upfront. And then afterwards, it's going to be in the next 3 years when you actually prove everything that you have said about the business, is when we are going to give the installments. So even for the exit, you will be having this type of situation. And that's why we said it's a very illiquid, like if you need your money now, it's complicated as an investor, because then you will have it in different installments. So from a VC perspective and from an exit perspective, many of the cases comes with installments, and installments based on achieving several milestones.
We have a question regarding the incubators. Do you know which kind of role they play in this whole landscape? Sometimes they do provide some seed funding, right?
Yes. So incubators and accelerators are doing a great job in terms of that they are preparing, they are helping, they are supporting, hand-holding the companies to get their business model right, and so on. I have seen many of those, and especially in Europe, and especially now here in MENA, I'm seeing they are taking 7%. So when a company decided to be part of the incubator or the accelerator, they normally can provide not only, let's say, in-kind space, co-working space, plus all of this training. And on top of that, they will give some money, and then they will get equity. And normally it's around, in Europe, it was last time it was something around 7% to 10% for starting the round, and with some type of combination of shares. In MENA region, I'm seeing exactly the same situation going more. They are starting to be considered as institutional investors. That sometimes I like to ask that clarification of what an institutional investor is. And yes, they are starting to get some percentage. They are starting to ask some percentage of equity at the very beginning. Something that I forgot to say,
Maria Caroline,
Evelyn, that I think it was. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, that's something that I wanted to say. Is that there's another important thing. It's that you guys, wherever you decide if you go for equity or for debt, also think about the vehicle, meaning, is it going to be an equity round, so it's a clear one, or if it's going to be a convertible loan that you want to do, or if it's going to be a safety note. That's something very important also to keep in mind, to be educated about it, so that you identify which is the best vehicle for that.
Yes, we have again this question between choosing between an angel and a VC fund. How do you decide what's the best fit for your company?
So again, angels are great because they will give you, so there are two, let's say, main things. One is about control, how much control you want to lose or not. Normally, the business angels will come in and they will provide advice and so on, but it's not that they are going to take the control, or they are going to say, listen, I want this CEO step down. They will provide that type of thing. However, at the same time, the budget, let's say the investment capacity is not as large as it could be a VC. Okay, so that's why we recommend that normally when you start the journey after the founders round, business angels are excellent money to come in. They will help you to grow your business. They will open the networks and so on, so that you can move forward. Now, VCs come in, let's say, in a later stage. However, again, after the pandemic and everything, we are starting to see that they are coming a little bit earlier. But it is true that, let's say, the control and the information rights and what they are asking in terms of shares and in terms of the entire deal terms are more strict. So it's up to them what would they like to give up. Now, for me personally, I think that having, again, a combination of welcoming the good business angels at the very beginning that understand how to co-invest with the VCs, it's great to have it, because the VCs will definitely push you as an entrepreneur to go for exit. That at the very end, I think, is the end goal of everyone everyone that is invested in the company.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry, my audio is a bit breaking, but I'm going to try to finish this session. What would you recommend as the best way to reach these angels?
So there are different ways. So one is in every region, you have a trade association or some different organization. For example, in Europe, we have the European Business Angel Network, where you can go and then you can find a list of all of the business angel networks that you can go and look for those ones. And I think that rather than going one-on-one with angel investors, the networks are great, because in one presentation, you can reach a mass of investors. However, if you have the possibility to go with what we call the super angels, that is great, because if you get a super angel in your company, that will give you a lot of credibility and that will help you to attract more funding.
Okay, and where do I find these super angels? In the network?
Yeah, the super angels, no, super angels are more word of mouth, to be quite honest. So yes, you can have few of them in the network. No, 100%. You can have few of them in the network. They might not be as visible, but then there are two ways actually that you can get them. Number one is to know pretty well the entrepreneurs that are in your same ecosystem, because what competitors doesn't mean rivals. They can be actually great alliance for the future, either for merging or to actually share this type of thing. So I remember when I was in an edtech venture, the other edtech, we were sharing this type of investors, and because there are some like, for example, mainly the super angels, they are very in vertical. So they like to invest in the same industry and sector. Therefore, for them, it's actually a great opportunity to continue investing in companies exactly in the same vertical. So one actually is the entrepreneurs, and that's why programs where there are many entrepreneurs of the same sectors are fantastic way for community building and so on. And then the other ones definitely would be this, or actually you following different groups, and LinkedIn is also a great opportunity to do so. Of course, but the best if you can get an introduction.
Yes, of course. Maria Carolina, you, I think you live in Dubai, but you are investing,
in Dubai.
And you live, you invest a bit all over the place, and it's a recurring question here to understand the cultural differences between the different equity investors in Europe or in the US, because we hear very often that the US investors are like more keen on taking risks. Can you say a few words about this? If it's as an early stage investor, if it's worth going for looking for a VC outside of his country?
So I will tell exactly what I found in Europe and in the US at the very beginning, and that's why I started to build my portfolio mainly in Europe. And I found unbelievable, great quality companies in terms of tech, specifically in Switzerland. Most of my portfolio is there, and the valuations of these companies were literally around 30% less than the companies in Silicon Valley, and they were developing. The technology was kind of the same. So that's why from an investor point of view, you can have in Europe, we found unbelievable deals compared to what we found in Silicon Valley, where the valuations were so high that we could not get a foot into the entire deal. So I think from an investor point of view, in terms of quality price, Europe is amazing because it's great people, great technology development, and then you can find it with more reasonable valuation for the budget or the money of a business angel. Now that I decided to open my portfolio for Middle East, because I'm living here, I think there's a combination of both. One is there are very interesting things. The difference of entrepreneurs from one region to another is evident, meaning Europe has more money in terms of R&D. There's more money going into education. There's more spin-offs going from the universities. While here in MENA, these countries, many of them were emerging countries, and there had not been so much money for research and development. So what they normally do is they understand business models, and then either they replicate or they have massive markets, and also they can create a great impact, let's say. So it's more from on my side when I invest here and in Africa, they are great. But it's also because it has this angle of impact investing that it's a good combination for me. Yes. So having said that, I think, at the very end, if I were an investor and as an entrepreneur, is to understand very well from an entrepreneur, how do you do the due diligence on the investor? So how do you do what we call the KYC, know your customer? So because whenever you are exiting, whoever buys you, even if it's you need to literally see that everyone is clear and clean. And on the other side of it, the investor, what I always ask to myself is am I going to repatriate the money? See, for example, I'm invested in Turkey, it happened, and I couldn't repatriate the money, and the cost was huge and so on. So it became very difficult, while European Union has one regulation and so on, and it's easy. So it's more on the investor to understand the regulation and to understand how this repatriation comes in.
Thank you so much. And we're going to come to an end. So I'm going to take one or two other questions. One, what is the best way to combine different types of co-investors?
I think that everything goes back to the deal terms. So the shareholder agreement. That is but again, it depends. If you're going for a loan, convertible loan, and so on. So I think that the best, I always say, everyone comes with different drivers. The founders comes with one drivers, each investor comes with different drivers. But there's a point where all of us, we are aligned, is that we want to be very good for the upside. So literally the terms are great, so that when the startup goes fantastically well, it's fantastic for the entrepreneurs and fantastic for the investors. And also very clear if things go down for the downside. So I think that those clarity of conditions, it's important. And very, very important is the information rights, meaning how it's going to be your communication with each one of these co-investors, and the fairness in the entire relationship. And again, this goes back to the negotiation on the deals in whatever way or form of whatever you are negotiating.
Maria Carolina, a question, we have many questions regarding valuation of the company. Yes. For the valuation of my company, should I choose a current or forecast valuation?
That's a good one. Depending on the stage of the company. But what I normally do is, and I think you have a valuation webinar here, no, Perrin? But anyway, I will split it into two. Okay. So when I'm in a very early stage, what I normally do is I take 3 valuations that are super easy. One is about the Percus methodology. You can research online or actually look into all of the webinars that you guys have. I'm sure it's explained. And it's different, like, let's say, dimensions, and then you put into a range. How much are you valuing for the team, for the network, for the development prototype, and so on. That's one. That will give you a range. Then the second one would be, and what I think it's the most powerful one for everyone included, like, it's how much you as a founder want to be diluted. Is the rule of thumb for entrepreneurs. You can look at like that. And it's good you put exactly how much I want to be diluted, how much is going to be the ask, and then immediately you will get your pre-money and your post-money valuation. It's very simple. Okay. Then the third one, it's either replacement values, how to everything, if you want to start from scratch as of today, how it will cost to have everything that you have today. And then if by any chance you are super lucky that you have the possibility to benchmark, how is your competition actually evaluating themselves and what type of fundraisings they are doing. This is for very early stage. Now, for more Series A and so on, I will go literally with discount cash flow. I would be, one of the things that I see a lot of in entrepreneurs is that they minimize the risk. And to be quite honest, when a company goes in a Series A, most likely you need to discount your cash flow at 30%. It cannot be less than that risk. So it's literally to have the type of reality. And of course, you can continue using the benchmarking or the replacement value or the liquidation value for that. So what I'm saying is at the very end, there are different methodologies. Choose the 3 ones that you feel comfortable with. Everyone will give you a range. At the very end, what matters is how much you want to be diluted at that stage. And that answering the question, if I do it in forecast and so on, it's a combination of both. But again, from the deep of my heart, I'm telling you, is whatever you think is the right, how much you want to be diluted in each stage, and then how the entire, it at the very end is a storytelling, is how you get all of these methodologies to make it work out. I hope I was clear. It's going to be a complete workshop.
Yes, I mean, there are so many topics, so I'm sorry, it's already 5 o'clock and we cannot cover everything, but we have, as Maria Carolina said, we have a webinar on valuation, and we will have sessions on due diligence, on different, all these topics in the next weeks. So I encourage you to check the website and the coming events. And since we're coming to an end, I would like to thank you very much, Maria Carolina, for this very great presentation, very enlightening, and I hope you enjoyed it. This session will be available for replay as for tomorrow on our website, on our YouTube platform. We will send you the presentation in PDF after the session. I would like to thank you all for being so many and more every time to join the sessions, and I really appreciate if you can give us a bit of feedback. It takes a few seconds, and let us know how to improve it. And again, sorry for the technical hiccups at the beginning, and I wish you a very nice end of the day, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.